Hello and welcome back, my partners in crime. Welcome back to Murder Analysed. I'm Christina Moore. So, hello to my favourites, my lovely partners in crime. I think it's really great that you're all supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. But today's shout out goes to Cheryl Phillips 3146. Thank you, Cheryl. I really appreciate that you comment and you subscribe and everything else you do for this channel. I really appreciate it. So this shout out is for Cheryl Phillips at 3146. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Now, today's case is a murder case, and it's a very sad murder case, really. This case comes from Bournemouth in the UK, and it's a crime that took place in 2022. Now, the poor victim's name is Thomas Roberts, and he was 21-year-old at the time of this murder. He was a lovely lad, really, just happy, going. He was like an up-and-coming DJ and stuff like that. He had something going for him, but we'll go a bit more into his background and stuff as we go through this case. It's really unfortunate, really, that we have to bring you such cases like this, because this is a murder that should in no way have ever happened, ever, because the man that murdered this man was a foreign national that claimed asylum in this country after going through other countries and especially Norway to try and get asylum, but he was rejected. But of course in this country we don't reject, we take them for what they say they are. This man said he was a 14-year-old child, so therefore he needed to be placed and looked after, and he said he was from Afghanistan, which we believe he was. And then he hadn't told the police, or they didn't check, should I say, even the border forces didn't check, that this man has already been convicted before he come to this country of 2 other murders. And he was charged and sentenced, actually, in his absence. So this is the very sad case here of Thomas Roberts. When we look at the murder of Thomas Roberts, the actual incident, the actual confrontation, should we say, which was over nothing, and I'll talk about that in a minute, only lasted 56 seconds. But what happened was that the damage caused, because he used a knife on Thomas, to Thomas's body, and the amount of blood loss, and then he had 5 cardiac arrests. So even though the attack was 56 seconds, the damage was so severe to this boy that he didn't survive, and he died in hospital the next morning. So this is a sad case, but it's a case that we have to look at, not only because it's a murder in our country, but it is a murder by a foreign national in our country that's come to this country. We've given him refuge in this country, and he's ended up not just being known to police beforehand, right, after arriving in this country, for carrying knives and issues with knives and fighting and everything else, but he was always also on the terror watch list. I had to look after him, really, because he just lied his way into this country by saying he was a 14-year-old child. That's when this man then became eligible, because he was a child, for foster care. So he's put into foster care. That means in someone's home that thinks they're looking after children. They don't think they're going to look after murderers, convicted murderers at that, and someone that is so violent, right? So this is what's happened. Plus, because he was 14, he would have had to have gone to school with these children in this area. But I think the failings in this case here stem right back from when he actually came into this country and tried to seek asylum, and then believing him without really checking out anything. because this man was already refused asylum in Norway. They refused it. So he gave them the same bullshit story. They said no. Within a month, he was hitting English shores and getting off that boat, claiming to be a 14-year-old refugee. Let's talk a little bit now about Thomas and then the lead up to this murder. Now, he was a well-known DJ as well. He'd done quite a lot of stuff in this local area. He was very well liked. He came from a good family. He had a girlfriend. He had a life, right, before this night. He had a life that was going somewhere. He wanted to give something back to society. He wanted to fulfill his dreams as any 21-year-old man would do. Now, I think his performance name, and some of you may know him as Nomad, he was just this drum and bass DJ and really, really good at it and really, really well liked. And really he was an aspiring, I think he'd just put in or he'd completed his forms to join the Royal Marines because he had been in these cadets leading up to this time. So this man had his life worked out. Poor Thomas Roberts should not have died on that night, because if this man wasn't allowed to stay in this country, this man would still be alive. So he would say to police, I'm being racially abused by school children, or I am being attacked in a park, knifed in the elbow, you know, my ear nearly bitten off, but it's them, it's not me. I didn't do anything. But this man has lied and lied and lied the whole time he's been in this country. The foster parents said, yes, he was aggressive. He was, her daughter, her older daughter, found him quite worrying, really. Actually, it made her cry on occasions, this man, his temper. Because he's not a child, right? He was a grown man, a murderer already, living in someone's house and acted like everyone owed him something. But so about, I think in 2019 is when he actually arrived in this country. So for 2022, early 2022, he was still in this foster care system. And then I don't think they could take it anymore. Then he was moved to a hostel. Now let's go on to this night of this murder. So Thomas Roberts was out in Bournemouth Town Centre with friends on this Friday the 11th of March 2022. He visited various pubs and everything, as you would when you're out with a group of mates, right? Of course they've had a few drinks and everything else. And anyway, he went across to different parts of town and everything. And during this early hours of this Saturday the 12th of March, two of his friends went home. But Roberts and his friend James Medway, they decided to stay out. Venue on this Old Christchurch Road in the town centre of Bournemouth. And they wanted to get something to eat. So, you know, before getting this taxi home, because you're going to do something, or you're going to go to one of the shops that's open late, grab some food, get a taxi, go home because you've had a good night out. And that's how we usually end it. And that's exactly what these two lads in the end did. Now, this perpetrator was also in Bournemouth Town Centre, right? Because don't forget now, he'd moved out of the foster home and he was now living in a hostel because she couldn't cope. The police were actually called and to the foster parents' home, and he was removed and put into this hostel. So he was now living really on his own in these hostile conditions. Now he was in possession of a knife because he was always in a possession of a knife. The police had known that. He was well known to police for carrying knives because his excuse to them every time they stopped him or every time there was a fight or whatever, I need it for my protection because they're racist, because I'm an asylum seeker. So he was well known to the police for carrying knives, well known. So they may have told him to stop and everything, but of course this man doesn't abide by the law, right? So he is now out at 3 o'clock in the morning in a possession of a knife because he states he was in fear, right? Bullshit. It's all bullshit. He had a fake ID, another fake ID. This man hadn't changed his habits from before he arrived in this country to after he arrived, really. He's still using fake IDs and stuff to get away with whatever he wants. So his ID had been taken off him because there was an incident just a little while before this by this security at this venue, because they said, and they could tell it was a fake ID because it didn't have the right amount of numbers. So the security know what they're talking about when it comes to, one, protecting the patrons within that, but also to what fake IDs look like. Now don't forget, because this boy continued to say he was 14, he wasn't old enough to go into a nightclub, was he? So there are limits, I think, to what he's done. So his fake ID, so this, he didn't like them taking his fake ID because he probably had to pay for that. And there was a scuffle and a fight there, and he was like thrown out, right? He was gone because he was really abusive. And again, you know, to the door staff and that, very, very abusive. They were very lucky, I think, at that stage, but because I think they were much bigger men and they were much more in control, I suppose, because they hadn't been drinking. They don't drink, the doorman at these bars. They can't drink. They were more aware of what was going on. Just before, he was involved in this argument with two males, and this was unrelated to Thomas and his friend. So we've had him having a fight with the doorman. We've had him over this ID. We've had him having another fight and an argument with two other people, and again they've walked away. And then in that one of them, he tried to headbutt, right? So you're talking about a man now, a child, if you want to believe what the immigration say, going round Bournemouth doing all this before he meets Thomas and his friend. So at about 4:37, so don't forget this has been going on now, right? Because the first sighting was in at 3:08, I think, on CCTV. Now we're at 4:37. He was seen riding this e-scooter. Now, a lot of people know this case from this e-scooter murder. He was getting off it and leaving it outside this subway. Or Thomas Roberts and his friend Medway were walking to the taxi along the Old Church Road. Now at 4:39, they were walking past this wild fish and chip shop, and sort of Thomas's friend just made a gesture, right, about this e-scooter, sort of saying, oh, you should just jump on that, we shouldn't bother getting a taxi home. But it was a joke. It's our English humour, right? Of course they weren't going to get on the bike and take it. They was going to get food, they had money, they was getting a taxi home. They had no intention of taking an e-bike. So rather than getting straight in the taxi, they thought, right, let's go in this fish shop. So they've said this, but now this perpetrator's overheard this, then starts shouting, that's mine, right? That's my e-bike, e-scooter. Now, it was literally, this was just a joke, right? I can't understand how it escalated so much, but it did, because this man, this perpetrator, was so intent, because he had done it all night through, on causing harm to somebody. And I think they had a quick argument. I mean, it lasted 56 seconds. 56 seconds, this interaction. 56 seconds. That's all it was. And he was saying things to, I think, more to Thomas's friend than he was to Thomas. But Thomas sort of stepped in and said, oh, calm down, mate. We're just a joke. You know, we just want to get something to eat and go home. And then he started to push, I think, Thomas, and Thomas sort of slapped him, I think. Then he pulls out a knife, a very large knife, and he just starts to stab. It was so quick. It was over nothing, really. And actually, Thomas was the one that was trying to calm the situation down here. He wasn't trying to incite violence or anything else. He was trying to calm it down. No one was trying to steal an e-bike, an e-scooter. It wasn't. It was just someone that doesn't understand our culture and how we are, that he would have probably have stole someone else's e-scooter. But Thomas and his friend had no intention of it. It was just a joke. So as he stabbed, he ran off. And Thomas's friend ran after him. Because Thomas at the time, I don't think realised, because it was so quick, what had happened to him. And as the boy ran, by the time he got back, Thomas Roberts was on the floor. and he was bleeding profuse. It was just everywhere, right? It was just flowing out of him. The ambulance was called, people helped, people tried to help him, everyone tried to help him. He had 5 cardiac arrests by the time he got to hospital because of his blood loss was so severe. And the next morning he died in hospital at about 8 a.m. So you'll see videos or some clips that I put up of the perpetrator running around the town. You'll see some clips of him being arrested. When we look at people like this perpetrator that shouldn't have been here and everything leading up to this murder, Thomas Roberts should never have died because he never should have been in that position, right? And I think it's everyone's fault here. The police, because they knew he carried knives and they sort of couldn't do or didn't do much about it because, you know, he kept claiming that he was the one being persecuted by people. The foster parents couldn't do a lot really because in the end he had to leave there. Lucky for them that he didn't do anything in that household, I think, because he could have. So she was very lucky. I think this man tried to hold it down for a while, to tell you the truth, but he couldn't. He'd lied and lied all his life. That's what he was. So, but when you are on a register and they are looked at for terrorism, your police know that you carry knives. You've been in lots and lots of incidents throughout that evening. There was always going to be someone that was going to die by the hands of this man. And it just happened to be Thomas Roberts.
Listen, during the early hours of Saturday the 12th of March 2022, an individual in Old Christchurch Road, Bournemouth, was stabbed and subsequently died. Inquiries have established that you have been responsible and therefore you're arrested on suspicion of murder. I've got to caution you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something later on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. The time is 00 and 11 hours. Your arrest is necessary to prevent any injury to yourself or others for the proper effective investigation of the offence.
So here we go with the trial then, now. So this perpetrator, he admitted manslaughter because you know, he didn't do it. It was self-defence, wasn't it? Because don't forget all the incidents that this man had been into prior. You know, these illegal incidents he had been into were never his fault. It was always somebody else's fault. He was always the victim. He tried that in this case as well. So he admitted to manslaughter but denied murder. And now in January 2023, he was trialled at Salisbury Crown Court in Wiltshire, where on the 23rd of January, he was convicted of murder. So because this man was such a liar. Now on the 25th of January at the same court, he was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 29 years. My heart goes out, really, and my thoughts go out to Thomas Roberts' family. Really, because he was such a lovely man, lovely lad, had everything going for him. He had his life worked out and it was so quickly taken away, 56 seconds. It really is sad. So this has been the Thomas Roberts case. So if you wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button, hitting this, hitting that, I would be grateful. And plus now, I'm on TikTok now, you believe it. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all these sort of things I'm on. And I'll be doing shorter cases on TikTok, just quite quick cases on TikTok. I actually like it, it's quite good little site. So I'm everywhere now. So thanks for watching. Until the next time, bye bye.